Kyra Barnes died last month in April. She was 17 years old. She was killed in the Woodlawn neighborhood in a shooting, and she was shot multiple times.
This is 22-year-old Miguel Alvarez Flores on the left and 18-year-old Diego Hernandez Rivera on the right. Now, police say they learned about these two men from a 14-year-old girl who told detectives she was kidnapped, drugged, and assaulted by members of the MS-13 gang.
July 13, 2003, a former gang member vanished from the banks of the Shenandoah River. Weeks earlier, she'd left witness protection, thinking she could escape her past. But MS-13 doesn't forget or forgive. Here are 6 times females messed with the wrong gangs.
28-year-old Jairo Sayans admitted in court he signed off on the murders of Cuevas and Mickens. I agreed with other members of MS-13. They should kill the females, he said in Spanish.
September 13, 2016, Brentwood, Long Island. 2 teenage girls, Nisa Mickens and Kayla Cuevas, walked down a quiet residential street, unaware they were being watched. Within minutes, their lives would end in one of the most brutal gang attacks ever seen in suburban America. Nisa and Kayla were best friends, typical high school students caught in the middle of a violent world they never chose. Their mistake, crossing paths with members of the notorious MS-13 gang. Kayla had been feuding with gang members at school for months, but neither girl could have predicted how far these conflicts would escalate. The weeks before September 13th saw tensions rise at Brentwood High School. Kayla's disputes with MS-13 members grew increasingly hostile, drawing the attention of gang leaders. What started as teenage arguments quickly became something far more dangerous, a target placed on her back. That evening, as Nisa and Kayla walked together, MS-13 members spotted them. The gang had been driving around specifically hunting for rivals, but when they saw Kayla, everything changed. They recognized her from the school disputes and made a call to their leader for permission to act. The attack was sudden and brutal. Multiple gang members jumped from their vehicle, armed with baseball bats and a machete. They chased the girls down and beat them mercilessly, first with bats, then hacking with the machete. Nisa's body was found later that night, not far from her home. Kayla's body was discovered the next day behind a nearby house. The murders sent shockwaves through Brentwood and beyond. The violence was so extreme, so clearly targeted, that it drew national attention. President Trump would later visit Brentwood, vowing to eradicate MS-13 and its reign of terror in suburban communities. But the girls' deaths were just the beginning. Their murders sparked a massive law enforcement crackdown on MS-13. Police and the FBI poured resources into Brentwood, uncovering a web of gang violence that had previously gone unnoticed. Other victims, mostly young people who had disappeared, were found buried in shallow graves, their stories finally coming to light. The community's response was immediate and powerful. Parents demanded action, schools increased security, and local officials faced hard questions about how gang violence had become so pervasive in their town. The case became a rallying point for anti-gang efforts nationwide. The investigation led to multiple arrests, including high-ranking MS-13 members. In court, the gang leaders showed little remorse. One even admitted,
"I agreed with other members of MS-13 that they should kill the females."
The brutality was not random. It was calculated, intended to send a message. The legal process took years, but justice finally came. The gang leader responsible received a 68-year sentence, effectively life in prison.
That's life for him because he's never going to come out.
Prosecutors say Sainez is the leader of MS-13.
But the family's pain remains. Elizabeth Alvarado, Nisa's mother, brought her daughter's ashes to court. Her presence a powerful reminder of what was lost.
Alvarado's daughter, she brought her ashes with her as she made her emotional plea for justice.
Strong and solid so that I can talk for her.
The case had a lasting impact. Brentwood transformed its approach to gang violence, implementing new prevention programs and community outreach. But the scars remain, visible reminders of how quickly ordinary life can be shattered by gang brutality. But if you think this case was shocking, the next story shows what happens when another teenage girl gets in the crosshairs of MS-13.
Investigators say based on what the suspects are yelling in the video, they believe Reyes was killed in retaliation for another MS-13 murder in Prince William County.
January 8, 2017, Damaris Alexandra Reyes Rivas stands barefoot in the snow, her darkest hour captured on cell phone video by her captors. The video evidence from that night would ultimately expose a chilling crime dynasty and lead to the arrest of 10 gang members. Damaris wasn't always the target. She was a typical teenager from Gaithersburg, Maryland, living with her mother and dreaming of her upcoming quinceañera. But everything changed when she reportedly became involved, willingly or not, in the murder of a 21-year-old MS-13 gang member, Christian Sosa Rivas. In the world of organized gangs, every action has consequences. Damaris's alleged role in Christian's death put her directly in the crosshairs of MS-13. For weeks, Damaris knew she was in danger. She told her mother about threats from gang members at school, but the full gravity of her situation was unimaginable. On December 10, 2016, she left home, never to return. The next month became a nightmare of abductions and violence as the gang's revenge plot unfolded. MS-13 didn't just want retribution, they wanted proof. The group meticulously planned Damaris's punishment, intending to film every moment as a trophy to send back to their leaders in El Salvador. On January 8, 2017, they executed their plan near Lake Accotink Park in Springfield, Virginia.
This court document says about a month earlier, on January 8th, Reyes was interrogated and taunted by people with known ties to the MS-13 gang.
The cell phone footage from that night is haunting. Damaris is forced to stand in the snow without shoes or a shirt, a deliberate act to make her feel as much pain as Christian, according to her attackers. The video shows her being interrogated and taunted by several gang members. They hold knives, poke her, and stab her with a large pointed log, while she still shows signs of life. One juvenile assailant was even wearing a court-ordered GPS tracking device, placing him at the scene during the attack.
Well, Candace, this search warrant here really, like you said, gives a lot of details about what happened that day. Specifically, it talks about the fact that one of the suspects were actually wearing a GPS tracking bracelet at the time of the killing. It also talks about the fact that the murder was captured on camera.
The brutality didn't end there. Venus Romero Iraheta, the main attacker, stabbed Damaris approximately 13 times. Before delivering the fatal blows, she told Damaris,
"You're going to remember me until the day we see each other in hell. Don't forget my name."
Iraheta then off Damaris's tattoo at the urging of another gang member, further cementing the gruesome nature of the crime. The entire assault was recorded in multiple video clips, later shown in court as crucial evidence. These videos were intended to impress MS-13 leaders and earn the attackers a higher status within the gang hierarchy. Their goal was clear: to demonstrate unwavering loyalty through extreme violence. Damaris's body was discovered in a Springfield industrial park, still wearing the dress she had chosen for her quinceañera. The silvery white casket at her funeral matched the shoes she never got to dance in. Her mother, Maria Reyes, was devastated, forced to acknowledge the nightmare she had hoped was just a bad dream. The investigation quickly unraveled the gang's network. 9 suspects were arrested and charged with abduction and gang participation, with more charges pending. The group of 10 included 4 adults and 6 juveniles, all connected to MS-13. The case exposed a web of overlapping gang-related murders and disappearances in the area. During the trial, Iraheta showed little remorse. In an interrogation video, she coldly admitted,
"I killed her,"
and showed no emotion when asked if the killing bothered her, simply shaking her head. Yet in court, facing Damaris's mother, she broke down, sobbing and apologizing profusely. The judge saw through her crocodile tears, sentencing her to 40 years in prison. Damaris's murder wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a larger pattern of gang violence in the region. The investigation uncovered connections to other missing persons cases and gang-related killings. The brutality of her death shocked the community and became a focal point in discussions about gang violence, especially involving teenagers. But if you think this case was intense, wait until you hear about what happened when another teenage girl messed with a gang dabbling in satanic rituals.
This is 22-year-old Miguel Alvarez Flores on the left and 18-year-old Diego Hernandez Rivera on the right. Now, police say they learned about these two men from a 14-year-old girl who told detectives she was kidnapped, drugged, and assaulted by members of the MS-13 gang.
February 16th, 2017, a quiet Houston street became a crime scene. Genesis Cornejo Alvarado recently moved from New York to Texas, was found shot twice at close range and left in the middle of Sharpcrest Street. The story that unfolded exposed one of the most disturbing cases of gang violence and ritual sacrifice. Genesis wasn't just another statistic. She was a teenager whose family had just relocated, hoping for a fresh start. Instead, she got trapped in a nightmare involving two MS-13 gang members, Miguel Alvarez Flores and Diego Hernandez Rivera. These men, illegal immigrants from El Salvador, were deeply involved in both gang culture and satanic rituals. Genesis wasn't their only victim. Alvarez Flores, known as Diabolical, forcibly tattooed the Grim Reaper on her leg, marking her as part of their twisted world. The girls were held in an apartment on S. Gessner, near Westheimer. There, they were subjected to repeated abuse, forced to take drugs and alcohol, and made to witness satanic rituals centered around a shrine called the Beast. This wasn't just gang violence. It was ritualistic terror.
Now, the witness told investigators there was a satanic statue in the apartment. The gang members said they wanted to, quote, offer the beast a soul.
Genesis's fate was sealed when she dared to criticize the satanic shrine. Alvarez Flores, feeling insulted, made a peace offering of a cigarette to the statue. But according to the witness, he returned from the shrine and declared,
"The beast does not want a material offering. It wants a soul."
What happened next was pure evil. In court testimony, it was revealed that Hernandez Rivera took the pistol from Alvarez Flores, turned to Genesis, and shot her in the head. Her body was found days later, still unidentified, except for the 3 rings she wore and her white Converse high tops. The men showed no remorse. In court, they smiled and waved at cameras, seemingly proud of their actions.
And both Hernandez Rivera and Alvarez Flores seemed to be smiling as they left court last night. They are each now facing aggravated kidnapping and murder charges and being held on $150,000 bond each.
In May 2021, they pleaded guilty and received 40-year sentences. Hernandez Rivera got an additional 12 years for aggravated assault. The case sent shockwaves through Houston. It wasn't just about gang violence. It was about how vulnerable runaway teens can become targets for the most sinister elements of society. The survivor was lucky to escape. Her testimony brought these monsters to justice and exposed the dark world that claimed Genesis's life. In our next story, a former MS-13 loyalist began to talk to the police and met a brutal end.
Start thinking about all the stuff you do, that makes you get your conscience. You start thinking, damn, look at all the stuff that I've done through my life for this stupid gang. It's just 2 letters and it doesn't mean anything.
Brenda Paz was a teenager who thought she could outsmart one of America's deadliest gangs. She was tough, resourceful, and once deeply loyal to MS-13. But everything changed when she started talking to the police. Her story is a cautionary tale about what happens when someone tries to walk away from organized crime, especially when that person knows too much. Brenda's journey started in the rough neighborhoods of Los Angeles, where she found a sense of belonging in MS-13 at just 13 years old. She wasn't just any member. She underwent the same brutal initiation as the boys, earning respect and the nickname Smiley. Through her teenage years, Brenda became deeply embedded in the gang's operations. She knew their secrets, symbols, and even the meaning behind their tattoos, like the 3 dots tattoo. She explained to police,
"The 3 places MS will lead you: jail, hospital, or the cemetery."
Those words would prove tragically prophetic. But Brenda wasn't content to be just another gang member. After witnessing a murder, she saw a chance for a different life.
You start thinking about that. Your conscience starts working, you start feeling bad about stuff. That's when you become a rat.
She began cooperating with law enforcement, providing crucial information about MS-13's structure and activities. Detectives described her as a goldmine of intelligence. She gave decisive or near-decisive information on at least 60 cases. Brenda's decision to turn informant wasn't without its problems. She struggled to adjust to life outside the gang, even while in witness protection. Isolated and pregnant, she began contacting her old friends, believing she could keep her cooperation secret. But MS-13 is always watching. The gang has strict rules. Break them, and there's only one outcome. Brenda's cooperation was discovered, and at a hotel meeting, MS-13 leadership took a formal vote. She was green-lighted for death. They even recorded their deliberations like a corporate boardroom, showing just how organized their violence had become. Despite the danger, Brenda returned to Virginia. She thought no one knew about her work with the police, but MS-13 had already decided her fate. On July 13, 2003, her supposed friends invited her on a fishing trip to the banks of the Shenandoah River. What happened next shocked even hardened investigators. Brenda was stabbed 13 times, one for each letter in MS-13. Her throat was slit, and she was left to die alone. The autopsy revealed another heartbreaking detail. She was 4 months pregnant. Her killers didn't hesitate. Ismael Cisneros, one of the convicted murderers, later explained the gang's logic.
MS-13 has rules, and when you break the rules, we all have to decide if you deserve to die.
Even facing life in prison, he showed little remorse. Brenda's murder sent shockwaves through law enforcement and the criminal world. It exposed how MS-13 had evolved from a loose collection of street thugs into a disciplined, organized crime syndicate capable of cold-blooded execution. The case also revealed the limitations of witness protection, especially for young informants with deep gang ties. Brenda's handlers moved her across multiple states, but she continued to contact gang members and throw parties, making her an easy target. The trial that followed was complex. Two men, Oscar Antonio Grande and Ismael Juarez Cisneros, were convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Two others were acquitted, including the alleged mastermind, Dennis Rivera, due to lack of direct evidence. Brenda Paz thought she could outsmart the system and leave her past behind. But MS-13's reach is long, and their memory is even longer. Her tragic end shows exactly what happens when someone messes with the wrong gang. Next, we'll see what happened when a young female gang assassin overstepped.
Kyra Barnes died last month in April. She was 17 years old. She was killed in the Woodlawn neighborhood in a shooting, and she was shot multiple times.
December 2014, Woodlawn, Chicago. A hooded gunman opens fire, ending the life of Kyra Barnes, a girl whose name would have become legend in Chicago's gang wars. This is the story of a teenager who took violence to an unimaginable level and paid the ultimate price. Kyra. K.I. Barnes started like any other kid in the South Side. She was smart, even described as shy and timid in her early school days.
Her mom said she was a smart kid. She was kind of shy, even timid, some people said. I talked to people at the school who said it took a while for her to warm up to her classmates and to her teachers.
Growing up surrounded by violence, she quickly learned that kindness could be mistaken for weakness on these streets. By age 14, K.I. had transformed into one of the most feared shooters in her neighborhood, a place known as Tookaville in honor of a fallen friend. While most girls her age focused on school, K.I. became notorious for her role as a female gang assassin, a job rarely seen in Chicago's gang culture. Her journey into gang life didn't happen overnight. At first, K.I. tried to balance school and street life, but after a gun-related arrest at 14, her path changed dramatically. She began spending less time in class and more on the corners, gradually building her reputation as a hitter, a shooter for her gang. K.I.'s transformation was so complete that even her teachers couldn't reconcile the sweet, quiet student they knew with the ruthless assassin she became. And the turning point came after the murder of her close friend Tyquan Tyler in 2012. Driven by a desire for revenge, K.I. adopted the Twitter handle Tyquan Assassin and made it her mission to avenge his death. This wasn't just bravado. She lived up to her new name with deadly seriousness. Her involvement in gang violence escalated quickly. Police suspect she was involved in 3 to 5 shootings, including at least 1 murder. Street sources claim the number was much higher, up to 15 shootings attributed to KI. She became a lightning rod in the ongoing feud between her gangster disciples faction and their rivals, the Black Disciples. Her reputation grew so fearsome that even her own gang reportedly wanted her gone. What made KI truly dangerous wasn't just her willingness to pull the trigger, it was her ability to blend in. She acted with such swagger that she was often mistaken for a boy. Her bravado was on full display on social media, where she openly taunted enemies and police alike. But underneath that tough exterior was still the shy girl her teachers remembered, a fact that made her story even more tragic. Despite her growing reputation, KI still had chances to change course. In February 2014, police spotted her in rival gang territory and offered help. She politely refused and walked away, a decision that would seal her fate. 2 months later, on April 11, 2014, KI made a fatal mistake. She posted her location on Twitter. Hours later, a gunman found her on South Eberhard Avenue and shot her 7 times. 2 young men with her were wounded, but KI was clearly the target. She died at the hospital, her body riddled with bullets, a victim of the same cycle of violence she once helped perpetuate. In the next story, we'll see how another young woman's defiance led to a terrifying confrontation with the 90 gang. July 4th, 2020. The Pink House's courtyard in East New York was bustling with fireworks and tension. Shatavia Walls, a 33-year-old woman known for standing up to violence, confronted a group of young men lighting fireworks dangerously close to children. Little did she know, one of them was Maliek Miller, the feared leader of the 90 gang. Shatavia Walls wasn't just any resident of the Pink Houses. Her reputation for courage had made her both respected and targeted. Walls had previously testified in federal court against the Loopy Gang, another violent crew closely allied with the 90s. That testimony branded her a snitch in the eyes of the gangs, putting a target on her back. But Walls refused to live in fear. Her husband was a high-ranking member of the rival Macbala Brims, who controlled buildings 7 and 8 of the Pink House's complex, while the 9Ds ruled buildings 5 and 6. This decade-long feud had already claimed several lives. The 4th of July confrontation quickly escalated. Miller, infuriated by Walls' boldness, called her a snitch and fired a gun into the air. But Walls stood her ground, besting Miller and his cousin in a physical altercation. That public humiliation sealed her fate. Miller wasn't just offended, he saw this as a direct challenge to his authority and a blow to his gang's reputation. 3 days later, on July 7th, the 9D gang put their deadly plan into action. Quentin Green, known as Wild Child, and Joe Santana, the designated shooters, spent the entire afternoon and evening changing clothes to avoid identification. They stalked Walls through the Pink House's courtyard, waiting for the perfect moment. When Walls finally emerged, Green approached from behind, exchanging words before opening fire. In his initial shots, he missed Walls, but struck an innocent bystander. Walls fled, running for her life through the maze of apartment buildings. Green pursued relentlessly, leaping fences and firing repeatedly. In her desperate escape, Walls unknowingly ran toward a second shooter, the teenage Santana, who opened fire as well. Despite being wounded, Walls kept running until Green finally caught up and gunned her down behind a building on Linden Boulevard. The cold-blooded execution sent shockwaves through the community. Walls survived for 10 days before succumbing to her injuries at Brookdale Hospital. The 9D gang's message was clear. Anyone who stood up to them would face deadly consequences. Flyers branding Walls as a rat had already circulated throughout the Pink Houses. After her murder, 9D members brazenly posted about the killing on social media, claiming credit and instilling further fear. The investigation revealed the full scope of the 9D gang's operations. They controlled territory through violence, drug trafficking, and intimidation. Their feud with the Macbala Brims had created a constant state of tension in the Pink Houses complex. Wall's murder was just the latest escalation in a long-running battle for dominance. But the gang's days of terror were numbered. The investigation quickly led to multiple arrests. Miller was convicted of murder in aid of racketeering and faces life in prison. Green, the primary shooter, received a 35-year sentence. Santana, the teenage gunman, got 22 years. Their accomplices faced various sentences for their roles in the crime and subsequent cover-up. Judge LaShann D'Arcy Hall made it clear during sentencing that these were not just youthful mistakes.
You were a young man, yes, but the choice you made is one that no one can walk away from.
She told Green.
You're not allowed to take a life and continue to waste yours.
As the dust settled, Wall's family and friends created a memorial near the spot where she was killed. Candles and flowers marked the place where her life was taken for simply trying to make her community safer.